Good morning. Welcome to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. John Cornell, Shane Matthews on a Wednesday, National Signing Day. Not a big deal anymore, really. Pretty much every school has their recruiting classes pretty much locked up, but there may be a few surprises today or some kids deciding on where they may want to go. Today we got two guests on the program. 8:15 we'll be joined by former Gator tight end, maybe one of the best tight ends to ever play here. Kirk Kirkpatrick will join us. Talk with him briefly about his career, about the Gators, and what he's got going on these days. And then around 8:30 we'll have Brent Beard from College Football Today, also First Coast News, college football analyst over in Jacksonville. Give us some nuggets on college football. But JC?
Well, Matthew,
what's going on?
Listen, it's good. It's a Wednesday, and this is the day that we typically used to get really excited about. But now with the early signing period, this is kind of a secondary time. But there is still some work to be done and some things to be finished. And I think you can put a bow on your recruiting class with a couple of marquee names, perhaps, or maybe some names to fill in some needs that you would need otherwise that you didn't get in December that you can get now. So certainly happy to be here with you. I'm really looking forward to hearing Brent Beard. He is full of information, especially with college football. That is his specialty, and he is going to be with us in about 30 minutes. And Kirk Kirkpatrick is a guy that I remember when Coach and you were throwing the ball all over the yard, and I really enjoyed seeing him catch a lot of passes. What was he, number 85?
88.
Oh, 88. Okay, 88. And the prototypical tight end that you could always depend on with good hands and a guy that always made a big play for you if you needed him. And he was certainly a guy that Florida really benefited from and really had a good finish with his career here at Florida. Now, of course, we are here Monday through Friday at 8 o'clock every morning, and you can also remember to listen to this show on iTunes. We're there. We're on Spotify, and you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook.com, and podupwithshane, all one word, .com. Of course, our number on the Titan MRI text line is 352-353-7465. You can also call that number if you have any questions or comments and you'd like to join our show for the next hour. And, of course, you can also ask us questions in the comments section on Facebook Live. We enjoy reading what you have to say if you want to contribute to the show. And you can also watch previous episodes of the show on podupwithshane.com. Of course, you can also watch it on Facebook and on YouTube. And as always, we're looking for more businesses that would like to sponsor this show because without sponsors, we simply cannot do what we like to do here. And we try to come with you, for you rather, to have as much interaction and information as possible. So please share the show with your friends. Click the like button and then the share button so all your friends can enjoy this show as well as we get into the world of podcasting.
Yep, got college basketball tonight. Gators play. They host the Georgia Bulldogs. You'll get a taste and get to see probably the number one pick in the draft this year.
You think, really?
Absolutely. High, huh? Yeah, well, Anthony Edwards. He's
Anthony Edwards. How's Georgia doing? Not that well.
Yeah, they're up and down. Not great. Yeah. Had a couple of big trades in the NBA and Major League Baseball last night. Mookie Betts from the Red Sox and David Price are traded to the Dodgers. So guess what? It's going to be the Dodgers and the Yankees, the highest paid.
You always have such a big deal with that.
Yeah, but
I don't want to hear it. The Braves could do just fine if they didn't choke in the playoffs. All year long, they're beating everybody's brains out, and then come the playoffs, they crump. But it's okay. I get it. You know, you're all about the. But
well, it's the highest. I mean,
whatever.
Look at is there a salary cap in baseball?
Did the Houston Astros win the World Series a couple of years ago?
Yeah, but they cheated.
Where was it? That's true. Well,
but
how about that year the Kansas City Royals won it?
That
we didn't even know who
anybody
was.
That was
on
the
that
best
team.
Ever.
The Milwaukee Brewers are very competitive. The Tampa Bay Rays every year are threatening to make the playoffs, it seems like, and they come from nowhere, playing in front of 15,000 fans on average every night. So I don't know. I mean, I think the Yankees certainly look good at this point, but that doesn't mean they're going to win it.
No, exactly. So tonight, as we mentioned, Florida and Georgia play. Ole Miss is in South Carolina. LSU is at Vandy. Your squad last night loses at home to
see,
Tennessee.
Here we go again.
It was a bad matchup.
I tried telling you 2 weeks ago.
It's matchups, so JC, when they play because of their style of play, and it's similar to the Gators, even though we don't get up and down the floor and shoot threes as much as Alabama. When they play physical basketball teams that crash the boards, Alabama struggles.
Yeah.
And that's what Tennessee is, a get in your face. Yeah. crash the offensive boards, and they go down.
I think Tennessee's better than a lot of folks think they are. I mean, it's hard to match up with last year's team, but they played Kansas tough on the road. They don't have the wins they had last year, but you're right. I mean, I watched them last night. They didn't look half bad at all to me. And that could be a team that jumps into the bubble scenario as Alabama fades away into oblivion like usual.
Arkansas is another team that may fade away from the NCAA tournament. They lose last night at home to Auburn. I failed to realize that Isaiah Joe, one of their best players, had knee surgery. So I see Arkansas kind of fading toward the stretch.
Well, and Mississippi State had a tough one up in Kentucky last night. Hung around, but I never got the feeling they were threatening. They were a threat to win that game. I just didn't see them ever really get close as Kentucky took care of business and won that game by 8, 80-72. Richards was really good, 27 points, 11 rebounds for Kentucky, and they are the team to beat in the league. I mean, let's just quit fooling ourselves. They're the best team in the conference, and I think LSU is too. But I think if we had LSU and Kentucky play 2 games, one at LSU and one at Kentucky, I think
split.
Well, or I would say that the chances are Kentucky would win 2. Are better than LSU winning 2, but I might be wrong about that. Either way, I agree. LSU is on record certainly the team to beat right now. But don't count Auburn out. They seem to play well under Bruce Pearl. It shows how good a coach he is. They can go to Florida, to Alabama, get blown out in the span of 1 week, and then turn it right back on and take care of business as usual. They're ranked number 11 right now. They're a shoo-in for the tournament. So Auburn's pretty tough. They win by 3, as you mentioned, against Arkansas. And again, Mississippi State is a good team, but I don't know if they're ready to really challenge for anything important right now because they've only got 1 road win. So I think that's going to work against them when it comes to the selection committee. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Brent Beard, we mentioned, is coming to join us at 8:30. He's going to talk recruiting and college football. Big news last night in the world of college football, QB. Mark D'Antonio of Michigan State, who was with the Sparty for 13 years, just decides to take his money and run. He got paid $4.3 million just a few weeks ago as part of a retention bonus, and now he announces on the day before signing day, or whatever today is complete. It's National Signing Day. On the day before that, very strange to me, and I can't wait to hear what Brent has to say about this, but he would pick up and leave that program that he's spent over a decade.
Well, I was watching some of their basketball game last night because I wanted to talk about Michigan State, who was your preseason number 1 team in the country.
In basketball.
Yeah. And they're 16-7 right now. So these Gator fans need to relax. I mean, you're talking about a very talented Michigan State team that's lost 7 times.
Sure.
So, but they showed him a couple of times. I think he was sitting with his wife, and, man, he looked like he was out of it.
He looked bad, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so there is a lawsuit that's going on at Michigan State University. There was a player, I think it was in 2017 or somewhere around there, who was charged with and convicted of sexual assault. The director of recruiting had a staffer, and that staffer got fired because there was some sort of connection with that player, and that staffer felt like he was being scapegoated. So he has a lawsuit going on against the university, and Mark D'Antonio was deposed in that lawsuit. Now, he, of course, said yesterday in the press conference that has nothing to do with why I'm leaving or anything like that, but it's just a distraction that you could also bring up that sort of falls in line with the fact that he just picked up and left. He took $4.3 million from that school, and he's out the door. And he decided to leave. They didn't ask him to leave. And it really is surprising to me because the timing is so odd. And I don't really understand what the motivation was there. But he spent 13 years bringing that program into some sort of relevancy. They were in the college football playoff one time. They had beaten Ohio State on more than one occasion. They had beaten Michigan consistently, right? The in-state rival, the great Michigan Wolverines, they beat them consistently. And many people thought that they were really getting close to the Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State hierarchy of that conference. But right now, after 2 years of average football at Michigan State, you'd have to put them somewhere around 5th or 6th in that league, right behind probably Wisconsin. And it's an easier job at Wisconsin, I would think, because there's no other school in the state to compete with like Michigan State has with Michigan, Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and all these schools that compete against you on the recruiting scene. So Michigan State, what kind of job would you classify that as? And do you have any names? Or now, sure, we could ask Brent, but who do you think is going to show up and take over that?
Well, the
school.
timing is what's difficult.
It's crazy.
So I don't know if
And these poor kids.
I don't know if they promote within or what. But
What about these kids in December that said, "Oh, I can't wait to play for Mark Antonio"? It's not happening now.
Yeah, so I think the
these
NCAA is
people.
going to have to address things that happen like this. But
I mean, he
very,
took the
very bad
money
timing.
Well, and then of course he took that $4.3 million. If he had any honor, maybe he'd give it back. Really, truly, maybe he would give it back. That was a retention salary. I'm going to ask Brent about that too, because it kind of bothers me that you would take $4.3 million and then in 2 weeks, and promise 20 some odd kids that you're going to lead them through their college years and their athletic career at Michigan State University, and then you hightail it out of town. I'm sorry. I would have roasted that guy at the press conference, and he would have hated me. And then all the little SID guys and everybody that's walking around in their little green jackets would have told me to leave. But I don't care, because that is ridiculous. And I know the media has a tough job when it comes to asking tough questions, but I think it's horrible.
But you would be very tough on him, wouldn't you, Jason?
I would roast him, and he wouldn't care, but I would do it. I mean, I think it's terrible, QB. Who, you got any names you think could
I have
step
no
in?
idea right now.
Well, I'll throw a few at you. How about Luke Fickell at Cincinnati? Big Ten ties at Ohio State. Guy that now maybe he doesn't look at Michigan State as the stepping stone job coming from Cincinnati, and he's waiting for that Michigan job or the Ohio State job if Ryan Day goes to the pros, or Penn State if James Franklin leaves.
Isn't that where D'Antonio came from?
Cincinnati?
I want to say he was the head coach there for a couple
So
years.
that's the first name I would come up with. I would not look at Matt.
Interested in him. His buyout was pretty high, I believe.
And then there's another name I thought of was Pat Narduzzi at Pittsburgh, because he's thinking Pittsburgh to Michigan State, that's natural progression. I think Pittsburgh's about.
He was their defensive coordinator,
right? So Pat Narduzzi would be a name that I think you could consider coming from Pittsburgh. Now think about it though. You're coaching at Pittsburgh, and you're coaching in the ACC. Considerably easier than dealing with the Big Ten East. No doubt about that. And certainly there's Clemson and potentially a Florida State program that's back, that's going to come back, which I believe it will. But the ACC is considerably easier than coaching in the Big Ten. So maybe Pat Narduzzi's a name. So I would say maybe Luke Fickell, Pat Narduzzi are two names you could think about. I'd be curious to hear what Brent has to say about that.
Yeah, and again, at around 8:15, we're going to have Kirk Kirkpatrick join us. Some programming notes this Friday. We'll have Tim Walton, head softball coach here at the University of Florida. They kick off their season Friday evening. So Coach Walton will kind of preview the season. And then Monday we're going to have old Danny Werfel's going to join the program.
The Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
And certainly look forward to hearing from him. Oh, I got two more names for you.
Who?
How about Brent Bielema, former Wisconsin coach who is the assistant at New York for the Giants. And then, of course, the old ex-Gator coach Jim McElwain, who's at Central Michigan. I mean, that'd be an easy hire, right? The former offensive coordinator at Alabama who came here and then was asked to leave. He left and coached Central Michigan to, I think, a bowl game.
Yeah, they went to a bowl game.
So maybe that would be a move for Michigan State. They're going to have to do something quickly, though, because today is Wednesday, the signing day. But I think it's too late right now because of this timing and this position that this clown put him in. But at any rate, and I don't mean to call him a clown, but I'm sorry. He took the money, and in 2 weeks he told those kids, I'm out of here. And I think that's just putrid. But having said that, it really doesn't matter what I think. I don't think he's worried about what JC thinks in Gainesville on Pot Up with Matthews in the morning.
Not at all.
But don't you think that's weird?
Yeah, it's not right. So we're going to take our first time out, get Kirk Kirkpatrick on the line. You're watching Pot Up with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Gator's Dockside, wings, ribs, seafood, and beer.
Bob in trouble, gets rid of it. Oh, big hit.
Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Doreen Weeby Realtor, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Adams Ribs, The Keys Restaurant, UF Mover Guys, Union Home Mortgages. Aikido America Martial Arts and After School, and Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, potupwithshane.com, and click on the Advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. John Cornell, Shane Matthews. We're going to go to the Titan MRI hotline right now. We're joined by the great former Gator tight end, Kirk Kirkpatrick. Kirk, welcome to the program. How are you, my man?
Thank you, Shane Matthews Band. I appreciate it.
Well, Kirk, I got John Cornell from TV20. I don't know if you remember him or not.
He probably doesn't.
With the big bushy mustache.
Yeah, Kurt, you got it, brother. All right.
Gorgeous mustache. He's very, very handsome, man.
Very, very happy to hear. Thank you, Kurt.
Well, Kirk, before
welcome.
Before we move along to what you're doing now, talk briefly about what it meant to you. Today's National Signing Day, by the way. I don't know if you remember.
I know.
It's not what it was back when Kirk Kirkpatrick was picking what hat he was going to put on.
Yeah.
But with the early signing period, all that's kind of gone away. But just talk back a little bit about your Gator career, what it meant to be a Florida Gator.
Florida is the best place to go in the state of Florida. If you live in Florida, why you go to any other school is insane, especially if you want to live here afterwards, because the Florida alumni and the connections you make are second to none. And I can say that, graduating 30 years ago this year, from 1990 to 2020. So, going to the University of Florida is the only place to go. And we have, facilities second to none. Education's unbelievable. Why would you go anywhere else? Makes no sense.
Kurt, tell me what it was like to play for Coach Spurrier. He gets here in 1990, or was it
90?
90.
Senior
90.
year.
So that was your senior year, and you had gone through, and I remember the experience we had with the late 80s teams. There was no offense whatsoever, and covering them was difficult. But then comes Steve Spurrier, and here you are as a senior, and man, you were just receiving the rock a bunch of times. Tell us about that experience, Kurt.
Well, when you bring in Spurrier, who I consider the greatest Gator of all time. Him coming in changed everything, changed the confidence of the team. We always had great talent. We always had great defenses. We had great offensive players, but never a good offensive system.
Right.
So Spurrier came in, saw the talent, pretty much knew that we were going to be good, and he gave us the confidence that we were lacking because. He'd be like, why are you losing to Georgia when I look at the roster and everybody's, 4 or 5 star recruits, and yet we're losing to Georgia, we're losing to Auburn, and he gave us the confidence to say, that's going to stop.
We're speaking with Kirk Kirkpatrick, former Gator great tight end. You can follow him on Twitter at KKUF88. Kirk, we just got a text here on the Titan MRI text line. Frank from Vero Beach wants to know, Kirk, what was your favorite moment as a Gator?
Favorite moment as a Gator? Oh man, there's so many. From just going there to probably, beating Georgia. I would say beating Georgia when we had Ric Flair in attendance.
Yeah, sure.
And we went out with them afterwards after beating Georgia 38-7. And we were on Ted Turner Jr.'s boat. Remember that, Shane?
Yeah.
With Ric Flair. Yeah, probably that moment or offer. There's so many of them. We had a great time.
I love that 90 team. Kurt, I love your 90 team.
Thank you.
And what I loved about it was that, really there were no expectations whatsoever, and you guys really showed up and played on Saturdays. Probably was such a relieving thing to see for Florida fans to see some semblance of life from this program. When you're running with Whitey Jordan's offense, and then you go to Steve Spurrier. It was quite a change. And so what I remember from you was every time a ball came your way, you caught it. And one of the more consistent players I've ever seen play Florida, there have been some really great tight ends. So as a tight end, give me a list, maybe the Kirk Kirkpatrick top 3 tight ends to play at Florida. Do you have one, or can you name one?
Obviously, Hernandez was unbelievable. As just a pure, not talking about the side stuff, but as talented goes, I mean, way up there. I think Kyle Pitts is unbelievable. I think that they need to give him the rock as much as possible. I mean, the guy is an absolute stud. I would somehow make sure he gets, 8 to 10 touches a game. That is a really hard list to do.
Well, Ben Troop, I remember Ben Troop. He was pretty good.
Yeah, Ben Troop's unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of people with great talent up there. It's just a matter of when you get in game time conditions, making sure that, you perform as well as your talent, how much talent you have. It's got to parlay into the game, because sometimes, as Coach Spurrier said, when you put the silkies on, people start dropping balls, they forget assignments, and you don't. That doesn't happen under Spurrier. It didn't happen under Spurrier.
JC,
I mean, you had to be a primetime performer. For
absolutely.
sure.
As JC mentioned, most quarterbacks have a comfortable guy they're comfortable throwing to, especially my first year, Kirk being a senior. He caught a ton of balls his senior year, except for one. And I like to bring this one up, JC. So here's the scenario. We're at Tennessee with less than 2 minutes to go the first half. It's 7-3 Vols.
Right, I was there.
We drive on a 2-minute drive. And Kirk runs a little corner route and wide open, and I think it's the only ball that he ever dropped.
It's the only ball. I bet I dropped 5 balls my whole time at Florida. I'm talking practice, everything.
Yeah.
And it was a Y corner, and I remember I was trying to stick my feet, and Shane threw it perfectly, and I concentrated too much on trying to get my feet in, and it was I sort of got disoriented where I was on the field, and I just flat out dropped it. And I've caught some crap on that for 30 years now for sure.
Well, the thing
that was the only one.
That was the only one, but we would have been ahead 10-7 at the half.
Sure.
Well, we come out.
I think we were down 7-0. We ended up kicking a field goal.
Kicked the field goal, and that's
it was 45-3.
And then right. And the last thing I remember about that was after that play, going up there, getting something to eat at halftime, getting on the elevator, coming back, and listening to that crowd was Dale Carter decided to run the 100-yard dash. So
run it back,
I mean, that was the beginning of the end. But having said that, Kurt, you were tremendous, and I also want to go back to the times when they weren't so great. And we played at Auburn that time, or you guys played at Auburn, and I was in a green V-neck sweater on the sideline. And I swear to God, if Godfrey Miles just tips Reggie Slack's ball, he missed it by an inch right in front of me. You guys beat Auburn that game, and you go 7-0 with Gary Darnell, and I think you would have won that game. I'll never forget that game. I hate Auburn. I hated Tennessee, how loud it was there, and certainly you guys brought some real atmosphere back to Florida Field, and I have a special place for that 90 team also because I went to Alabama, and Shane and you went up there and won that game. And I'll never forget reporting on that game. And it meant to me that Florida football was officially back. It wasn't necessarily the game that Emmett had in Birmingham the year before. Right. It was that game that you guys won in Tuscaloosa on the AstroTurf. And who can forget it? But one thing that bothers me, Kurt, and I want to know if there's anything you can do about this or if I should just take over the lead, but getting that 1990 logo or uniform or number back on the wall at Florida Field. I don't understand why.
Yeah,
they
end up taking that down? They take it down?
They took it down, Kurt.
They took it down. Oh man, yeah. Well, I mean, they got so many banners now. Coach Spurrier did a great job honoring us for the 25 years?
Yeah.
That he brought us back. So Spurrier always remembers it. He always does a great job of keeping us, knowing how important we were. Yeah. And even though it's not in the record books, as we're number one in the SEC, I have a ring, right, Shane? We have a ring.
Absolutely,
so number one in the SEC.
Yes,
I know you're probably rocking right now.
No,
yeah, well, my ring is floating in the Gulf of Mexico somewhere from one of those hurricanes. All that stuff went home with my parents, and it's gone.
Oh no! Oh gosh!
But Kirk, fast forward a little bit to now the Dan Mullen era. Talk a little bit about what you personally have felt what Dan has brought to this program. It reminds me so much. I know he has a little bit of Urban in him, but he's got a lot of Coach Spurrier in him. And what he's done in 2 years here has really put us back to be a significant, contender. Give me your thoughts briefly about what Dan's done here.
I've never met Coach Mullen at all, so I can't say personally. I mean, he seems like he's all business, which I love. He seems to love the University of Florida. I mean, he gets these people, he gets the young players motivated, and he gets them that they're at the University of Florida, and he's delivering the goods. And, you can't say more than that. I mean, it's hard to motivate a bunch of 18 to 22-year-old kids. And he seems to do a fantastic job with recruiting. with his coaches, just the retention and working with the talent that he has. So hats off to him, and I think he's doing a great job.
We're speaking with Kirk Kirkpatrick, former Gator tight end, graduated in 1990, was part of that first ever team that won the SEC, wasn't crowned champs. But Kirk, let the Gator Nation know what Kirk Kirkpatrick's doing down in Tampa these days.
Well, first, I have a daughter, Bella, who's a sophomore at University of Florida. She's a tried-out up there. She's loving it up there. And I am in Tampa. I'm CEO and co-founder of Riverside Recovery of Tampa. We're a drug and alcohol treatment center, dealing with people needing help with addiction. So we take commercial insurance. We're a for-profit center, and my Gator connections made that happen. I mean, one of our big investors is Todd Alley, who's one of the big bull Gators. I think the football offices are named after him, or the elevators, or one of those things. Great guy. And I mean, it's 100% from my going to University of Florida, my alumni connections and working them. And, I'm happy to be a Gator, proud to be a Gator. And again, if you're planning on living in the state of Florida, you should go to University of Florida. It's the greatest school out there.
Nobody's going to argue that point, and I agree with you. And it's certainly good to hear that you're helping people and really making a difference. And I have a son as well at the University of Florida, and he loves his life right now. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
He really does.
Having a blast.
I had another son that went to Mississippi State. Dan Mullen was the coach there, and then, of course, the younger son goes to Florida now, and Dan Mullen is the coach there. So he is all about the Mullen train, and congratulations on all your success, Kurt. It's great to hear how you're doing.
Yeah, Kirk.
Thanks, my man.
Before we let you go, give us the website where people can check out Riverside Recovery.
Yeah, it's RR Tampa, one word, rrtampa.com. That's it. And you can call me up anytime anybody has any issues, or somebody needs help, or somebody that they love needs help. Give me a call at Riverside Recovery of Tampa. And it's easy to find. We're all over the internet and do a lot of advertising in Tampa, and doing some big things.
All right, Kirk. Well, we appreciate you joining the show, man. We'll be in touch. Have a good week, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Kirk.
Thank you, Shane Matthews Band, and keep the mustache.
All right, you got it, Kirk.
Right,
Thank you so much.
Right,
Kirk Kirkpatrick joining us
have
on
a
the
good
Titan MRI hotline.
Bye-bye, Kirk. If he turns this on and watches us, he'll know that I'm very clean above the lip. It's amazing that he remembered that, because I do remember interviewing him on Tuesday mornings on occasion. But my God, this was how many years ago was this? So
it
30
must have
years
been a
ago?
sweet stash, JC.
Brother, everybody talked about it. I don't know why. I have no idea why, but they liked it, and I got in trouble. This is a true story. I got in trouble when I left to go on vacation to Nevada, and I shaved it off, and I came back, and God bless Bob Williams, my news director, was infuriated that I did not get permission. This is true, that I did not get permission to shave my mustache because it affected my appearance on the television, was his words. I said, well, are they listening to what I have to say on TV, or are they just looking at my mustache, Bob? And so I think I was put on probation. I was put on probation for shaving my mustache. It's unbelievable, but it was glorious.
Right.
I really didn't feel bad about it.
Well, we're going to take our second time out of the program. We're going to try to get Brent Beard on the phone line. We'll be right back. You're watching and listening to Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios.
Time out! Time out! Hey! Time out! Time out! Time out! There we go. Good.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills.
Let's give them something to cheer for now.
Our Gridiron sponsors are Crime Prevention Security, small enough to serve you, large enough to care. Gator's Dockside, wings, ribs, seafood, and beer.
Bob in trouble, gets rid of it. Oh, big hit.
Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility.
Our touchdown sponsors are Radware Promotional Materials, Doreen Weeby Realtor, Gator BTW, Campus USA Credit Union, Celebration Point Town Center, Miapa Latin Cafe, Davis Gainesville Chevrolet, Adams Ribs, The Keys Restaurant, UF Mover Guys, Union Home Mortgages, Okido America Martial Arts and After School, and Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, you can visit our website, podupwithshane.com. and click on the advertise button or call Freddie Wiebe at 352-284-3733.
Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
Still looking. He's going for the end zone. He's got a touchdown.
Welcome back to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We appreciate having Kirk Kirkpatrick on. Now we're going to move over to another great tight end out of Alabama.
All right.
That'd be our man Brent Beard from College Football Today, First Coast News football analyst, also a Heisman Trophy voter.
How about that?
Brent, welcome to the program. How are you?
Guys, I'm doing well. Good to be with you as we are in the National Signing Day Part 2. It will be interesting to see how long the two dates last and how that will be rearranged over the next few years. So not quite the hoopla we had in December, but got that going on, hoops going on. Michigan State looking for a new coach. Transfer portal still going on, guys. So plenty to talk about.
Well, let me start with Mark D'Antonio. I find the timing of this, Brent, as very peculiar. I know there's a lawsuit going on. I kind of outlined that lawsuit earlier in the show, but I can't understand how you can take, in good conscience, $4.3 million some odd dollars weeks before you tell 20 some odd kids that you signed a month ago that you will not be their coach. Can you kind of give me some insight on this, perhaps, or just a guess?
Well, the timing is just awful, frankly, when you're looking at this. This would have been a week later. Would it have made a difference? Maybe to some degree, but I mean, all these things are relevant. I mean, does he want to step aside? Has he had enough? He wants to spend time with his family. You can say that, but the reality is you cannot ignore this situation where he is in the lawsuit with Curtis Blackwell, the former recruiting coordinator, that's accusing him of multiple NCAA violations at this point. And guys, frankly, you've got a situation here where what does Michigan State do? Where these guys have already got signed, or all these guys get released? They should have the opportunity to be released, if nothing else. And then you've got also the bigger picture of what do they do as far as a coach. Obviously, Luke Fickell from Cincinnati has been mentioned. Pat Narduzzi, who was with the Michigan State staff, went to Pitt, has done a pretty good job there. His name has been mentioned too. So there are a whole lot more questions to this right now, guys, than answers.
Brent, looking today, as you mentioned, it's National Signing Day, not as big as it used to be back in the day. There's a few handful of really good players still out there. Yeah. Can you briefly talk about them and where they may sign? And we just had a Facebook Live question for you. Want to know where Tay Williams, is he signing with the Gators today?
That's a good question. Let me go over all this real quick. Right now, I'll mention a lot of things in here. In December, of the ESPN 300 prospects, 274 of them signed. That's amazing when you think about that. 26 of them didn't, but 15 of those guys are committed already. The big dogs out there right now that are still walking away, as Pat Dye from Auburn used to put it. Jordan Birch, who's defensive tackle, he's number 8. He's committed to South Carolina. There's some LSU talk about that. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle, who's number 11, probably going to Georgia. Zachary Evans, who is our wild child, as we always have one every year, that was originally committed to Georgia, has been released. And there's no telling when he's going to sign, to be honest with you. Now, Florida's looking at Avante Williams, the safety. He's number 44 on that list. Cedric Van Pron, who is committed to Georgia, probably will end up going there. Defensive tackle McKinley Jackson is probably going to end up in Alabama. Xavier Henderson, who Gator fans want to certainly know about, committed to Florida. Will probably sign with them later on today. Now, my understanding is there's a Jamar Gibbs, Gibbs, who's a running back committed to Georgia Tech, that the Gators were very interested in too, trying to see if they can be able to pry him away at this point. And the other amazing thing about the second signing day is ESPN, guys, is only going to have 3 hours of coverage, one from 3 to 4 on ESPNU, and then 9 to 11 again on ESPNU. That tells you at this point, guys, really kind of the proverbial hay is in the barn for this signing day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Brent, kind of going around the league to a couple of schools. Tell us what's going on. Anything new going on in Tuscaloosa with the Crimson Tide?
By the way, and also for Gator fans, Justin Shorter has officially signed, so the Penn State product is in at this point. One of the more amusing stories of signing day, or the week of signing day, was Nick Saban stopped by and visited one of the prospects' grandmothers in a nursing home.
Wow.
And for whatever reason, that was a major story. So, which is always rather comical. We mentioned Jackson a few minutes ago, who they think they would get, McKinley Jackson, and that's the biggest situation for them. Bama's in with Georgia, Clemson, also as the top class that's coming up at this point, guys. So we also look for, after today, will there be any changes with the Alabama staff, particularly that defensive staff coming up?
Over on the East, we've talked about Georgia, and you mentioned Zachary Evans being released from his LOI. I'm surprised by that somewhat, but I guess that's just the way it works sometimes with some schools and some kids. So with Georgia, offensive line being a big spot, can you talk a little bit about some of the linemen in Georgia? Because I think it's pretty good. You mentioned in your notes that this is a good state, a lot of prospects in Georgia.
Well, and Georgia really needs them, too, because they've had a lot of turnover in that staff. Obviously, Sam Pittman goes to Arkansas. Matt Luke now is the offensive line coach. Now, they probably should get Broderick Jones, the offensive tackle. He is going to sign with them likely this morning. He canceled the trip to Auburn. Cedric Van Prawn, whose name has been mentioned a good bit, he likely will end up signing with them too. Now, Georgia, in a lot of some of these recruiting services, actually has the number 1 class. Jackson Muschamp, who you can guess who his father is,
yes,
is going to be a preferred walk-on quarterback at Georgia.
Wow!
As a matter of fact, yes, that is Will's son. Yeah. So that will be interesting to look for. 6'1", 190. Now look, he is. I mean, he's not a 5-star or anything like that, and I don't want to get mixed up in the numbers here, but as far as the rating, but that's where you wanted to go. Obviously, we know Will's ties to Georgia, so that will be interesting to see in the quarterback room as far as how that's going to be. Carson Beck from Mandarin High here will be there. Jamie Newman, we know, is transferred. DeJuan Mathis also had brain surgery. People may forget that, and he's trying to get healthy. Stetson Bennett, the redshirt sophomore, is also in that room too, guys. So a lot going on with Georgia. They'll get probably a couple of guys today, and that will be about it. But they indeed may have the number 1 class before it's over.
So, I mean, why wouldn't Jackson just walk on at South Carolina? Never mind. I won't let you answer
well,
that.
He had some scholarship offers.
Yeah, he did.
But his dad played there. So.
Oh, I know. No, he's a Georgia guy.
Yeah. Real quick, Brent, we lose Larry Scott here on the UF staff. Any word about who might replace him as the tight end coach?
No, but I I think that will come out very shortly. I would think after signing day and everything's in the hay's in the barn again. That will make a difference. Obviously, a lot of talk about Kerwin Bell and also Charlie Strong. If that indeed becomes official soon, that will be big pickups for them, and certainly for a lot of insurance as far as to help that staff.
You mentioned Mississippi's got a couple of really good players, which is traditionally the case. This kid, McKinley Jackson, 6'2", 320 from Lucedale. Where will he look to play? He's a defensive tackle prospect out of Mississippi and the number one prospect in the state, according to your notes. Tell us a little bit about what he's looking to do, because defensive tackles are always in high demand in the SEC.
About 10 o'clock this morning, I expect he probably will sign with Alabama.
Ah, well.
Alabama's made a real push for him, and that's likely who that it's going to be.
Right.
And guys, one thing to remember is the guys who signed in December are just as good as the guys who signed today. Yeah. They just waited later, and they got a lot more attention because of it. So that's just kind of the nature of the beast with how this goes. But yes, Jackson is a well thought of as far as the best probably defensive lineman, particularly defensive tackle, who is on the board right now.
Yeah. Brent, what are your thoughts? Do you think KJ Costello is a good fit for Mike Leach's offense transferring there?
I think Mike Leach could take me, and I could throw for 3,000 yards for him on a given year, even at my advanced age. But the thing that fascinates me about that, Shane, Costello is 6'5", 220. So he's a big, rangy kid. Last year he threw for 3,500 yards and 29 touchdowns. Now, he'll be facing better defenses, but he's completed 65% of his passes. Yeah, I think he could be a big-time addition for them. So I think he would have to feel very, very good about that. That's one of those instances where the transfer portal really paid dividends.
Well, and it could also for that, what was it, Keontae Johnson? What was his name? The Thompson. Wasn't it Keontae Thompson?
Yes.
So, I mean.
Yes, and Shavers is also in that too.
Okay.
But I think the reality of it is that Costello is going to be your quarterback at this point. I could see him doing a great job with it. And look, and people may forget this, but Mike Leach took the Gardner Minshew, who was basically going to be carrying a clipboard in Alabama, and made him into basically the offensive player of the year in the Pac-12. So, and I'm sure Shane knows that staff to a degree too, and they're very good. So this is a big time addition for Mississippi State. Now, does that mean they're going to win the West? No, but the reality is their offense, and guys, you remember what it was last year. I think will be greatly improved this year.
Well, and I think the reality in this conference is, and you can fill us in with some of your goings through the SEC and some of the people you've talked to, but when the state of Mississippi is better and when it's competitive, it makes the whole league much better. That year that Mississippi and Mississippi State, I guess it was 2014, when they were playing and winning games, it just brought up the whole league to me for some reason. Now, I don't know if that's because of where that location is or because of all the great players that come out of that state, but when you have Lane Kiffin and Mike Leach, Brent, has there been a little bit more rub about the state of Mississippi and what's going on over there in the West?
There's no question about that. And as a matter of fact, the day that you were talking about, when the first playoff were unveiled, with the top four, remember Mississippi State was 1 and Ole Miss was 4.
Yeah, that's right. And they were on that Sports Illustrated cover.
Now, will we ever see that again in our life?
No.
This guy.
That certainly is debatable. Well, but the reality is, no, I would agree with that. Look, you've got And the other thing is, with both Leach and with Lane Kiffin, I still say Lane Kiffin, guys. Now, Lane Kiffin is not a great quarterback developer, but where Lane really is as good or better than anybody in the nation is as a play caller. So the point with him is, once he establishes that quarterback room, and he will, they will be very dangerous to play not only this year but the next few years.
I agree.
Well, Brent, we appreciate you joining the program.
Good
You can
stuff.
check Brent out over in Jacksonville. You can follow him on Twitter at Brent Beard. Brent, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us, my
Once
man.
again.
And Shane, to tell folks, we will update our Twitter feed at Brent Beard, Beard, throughout the day for the latest signees as often as we can for the SEC schools.
All right,
You
Brent.
got it,
Appreciate
Brent.
it, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
That's Brent Beard from College Football Today, and also First Coast News over in Jacksonville, full of college. He loves some college football.
Well,
now.
and I love talking to him about it because I pretty much agree with everything he says. Unlike some other people I know, but no, it's he's good. Hey, we've got some Facebook Live questions coming through and some statements. This is Bob saying, "Hey, Johnny and Shane, missed my brother Dave missed you while he was back in town. He's in New Mexico, but thank you for the show. Great program and go Gators." We also had Todd from New Jersey. Todd from New Jersey saying good morning. Talking about Kirk Kirkpatrick's reference to my glorious mustache in the 90s. Thank you for that, Todd. Kyle wants to thank you for coming to talk, I guess, to them. Did you?
I'm not sure
where did you talk lately, recently? Did you
I talked to the Titletown Gator Club, but that was back in December.
Back a while. Well,
Maybe that's what he's referring to.
Okay, well, thank you for referencing that, and of course, watching and listening to the show. So.
We also
what else you got?
I got some text here on the Titan MRI text line. This is from Barry. Says, Gators are favored by 9.5 against Georgia. Is Vegas crazy?
No, I think Florida has the capability of beating just about everybody except Kentucky and LSU by that spread in this building here. Maybe not on the road, but in Gainesville, they had leads. I mean, they were beating Baylor at one point. They were beating. Now, granted, it's a 40-minute game, sure, but Florida has to learn how to, and we talked about this, they have to learn how to hold on to leads and bury the team or put them away, I guess you could say, in the second half. 9.5, so the question would be, would you put a hard-earned dollar on Georgia with those points or on Florida blowing them out? You say Florida, but I think a lot of people are curious about that line because it is a lot of points there.
Well,
is it not a lot of points, Scooby? I mean,
it is a lot, but
if the Gators win 73-65, you lose betting on Florida.
If they win 75-60, you win. It's pretty easy to figure out, JC.
Oh, you're genius.
Just to let everyone know, Justin Shorter, the transfer from Penn State, 5-star receiver, has signed with the Gators. Also, Xavier Henderson. I think he's a 4 or 5-star. I think he's a 4-star. His brother C.J. Henderson.
He's a player.
He's a really good player.
That's what he is, 4 or 5 or whatever.
I don't really care.
That's right.
So,
well, those are good names. Breaking news here at 8:48 for QB.
Well, I don't know if it's breaking news. Everybody knew he was going there.
Who else is talking about it in the area at 8:48 in the morning? Thank you. Right? I mean, that's
we also got another text here from, they didn't tell me who it was, says, that was a beautiful stash.
Back to the stash again. I think people have got to be sick about it. Steven says, "Thank you for the math lesson on the lines." Okay, thank you for watching, Steven. We love our viewers. Lamar says, "Sprinkler Reed is trending." Hashtag Sprinkler Reed. Of course, I'm referencing the Mike Leach offensive set that he comes out and the quarterback has to basically make what we call, or I call, sprinkler reads.
Don't put me in this.
Sprinkler reads are when you're going this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy.
Have you ever done that? Have you ever done that?
What? A sprinkler read? If I played football, I absolutely would have. If that was coached by Mike Leach. You
better have some good protection. To do sprinkler reads, you better have some really good protection.
Thanks, Lamar. Go Bobcats. So I think it's true though that and Brent agreed with me that when Mississippi is better in football, the whole conference benefits from it. And certainly, I don't think anybody in the NFL feels bad about that because of all the greats that come out of that state. It's such a small state, relatively speaking, when it comes to population.
Well, for the years that I played in the league, they used to come out with these, how many players are from whatever state.
Sure.
Per capita.
Right.
Every year I was in the league, the state of Mississippi had more players in the league than anywhere else.
Yeah, well,
per capita.
Per capita, and that makes sense. And certainly, I don't know what it is.
I don't know how they figure all that out.
I don't
I'm
either.
not smart enough
Hey,
to do
that's
that.
good stuff. And we certainly, I think, have now some real excitement generated in the West. It's not just about Alabama and LSU, even though it really is. But you have the Mississippi teams that could sneak up on you on any given Saturday with one of these two coaches getting their players to play. And the benefit here for Mississippi State is that they're going to score a lot of points, and they'll probably need to because of how bad their defense is, and they'll have to get better on the defensive side of the ball. The excitement for Mississippi is that, hey, we're coming out of the doldrums from and the misery from the Hugh Freeze finish, and bringing our program back to prominence with a guy who has been very successful and is part of a national championship team. So I think they have a lot to look forward to. And, of course, Florida is playing at the Grove. Is it September?
I don't know when
So
it is.
we have to. You better figure this out. You've got 9 months, QB, but we have to figure out how we're going to both go to the Grove and do the show at some point or some fashion. We've got a lot of friends.
Well,
you know the entire state of Mississippi. I fully expect us to be doing this show in the Grove in September before the Florida Mississippi game. I've never been to the Grove, QB. It's up to you now. This is your con.
You know what I really want to do?
This is your project.
And you're a big world traveler. Maybe you have one of your sponsors that sponsors you when you travel, whether it's Delta Airlines, one of those companies.
American Express gets a lot.
Maybe they can sponsor us to go to SEC Media Days.
Oh, I would love that. Or one of us to. I tell you, that would be a lot of fun. Is it in Birmingham or did they move it to Atlanta? Wherever it is, it's a tremendous event. And that's truly like the official start of football season for most of the media members. I don't know. Do you qualify? Would we qualify as a media person, though, QB?
I don't really know.
What do we qualify as here on Pot Up with Matthews in
I'm
the
not
morning?
sure.
Well,
But I do know this. Celebration Point is where the Gators come to celebrate.
That is true.
And maybe they'll
There's no
celebrate
question.
tonight after a Gator victory over the
Georgia
Dogs.
Bulldogs.
With premium brands like Bass Pro Shop, Nike, Palmetto Moon, Regal Cinemas, and coming soon, the head ball coach's new restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill.
right.
We will see you at Celebration Point where the Gators come to celebrate. You know about Coach's Restaurant?
Yeah.
They're going to have an upstairs outdoor like patio bar rooftop.
Nice.
Called
The
Visors.
Visors. I mean, how can this thing not just explode? Very exciting. Lots to look forward to. And I love what Svein and those guys have done in the private sector for that part of our town. Freddie says, homecoming announced against the South Carolina Gamecocks. That game is in
I think it's October
maybe?
the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
So that'll be fun to have South Carolina as the homecoming opponent. Kyle says, and thank you for this, the Grove is October 17th. Can you imagine the weather in North Mississippi in October, in the middle of the month?
JC,
for
here's
that
the
game?
thing, though. If we
I
go, you
cannot
can't be
wait
wearing
for
a
that.
hoodie to Ole Miss.
What?
You're going to have to get dressed up kind of nice.
Oh,
when you
because
go
like
there.
when I went to Starkville, all the games at Mississippi State, I looked like what, a NASCAR fan or
this
something?
is Oxford. You got to dress nice.
Do I need to break out my penny loafers?
Yes. Because are you going to go as an Ole Miss fan or a Gator
Hell
fan?
no, I'm going as a Florida fan. What
Okay.
is this Ole Miss?
Okay, I wasn't sure.
I had a kid that went to State, and my other one goes to Florida. And you're
Well,
asking
I wasn't
me about
sure
Ole Miss?
because you have a different
God's sake.
sweatshirt on every
Well, we
day.
have a lot of friends who are Ole Miss fans, though.
Well, my family, I'm an Ole Miss guy.
You are. Well, you grew up in an Ole Miss house. Let's just say that, because I wouldn't call you an Ole Miss guy. I'd call you a Florida guy. PotUpWithShane.com, baby. PotUpWithShane.com, YouTube and Facebook. That's how you get us. PotUpWithShane.com.
That's right. And we want to thank Kirk Kirkpatrick, former Gator tight end, for joining us, doing wonderful things down in the Tampa area, and also Brent Beard from over in Jacksonville talking college football. Tomorrow, I have a few guests lined up. I'm not sure exactly who's committed. They're kind of checking their calendar. But don't forget Friday, Tim Walton, head softball coach of your two-time.
Who can forget
have we
the
won
day?
it 2 or 3 times?
Who can forget? I think it's twice. Who can
Back to
forget
back.
the day when Shane
National
Matthews
champs.
walked out on the field looking as goofy as anybody with a bat and helmet on and smacked Danielle Laurie's high heater to right center field?
you're dang right.
I'll never forget that moment.
right.
That might have been one of my bigger moments in softball history.
How
We're going to
many-
have to ask Tim Walton
How
about
many
that.
other people even
Nobody. They
made
didn't
contact?
even. I mean, Chris Doran looked like he didn't even know.
Trey Burke.
They were horrible.
The baseball players.
Yeah, awful. But here comes
Great eye-hand
Here comes my co-host, and he's showing up Danielle Laurie, who only threw it about on a baseball equivalent to close to 100 miles an hour. So,
well, today's show is a wrap.
You'll
brought
never
to you
forget
by,
that moment.
Never. Brought to you by Wrap Spot, a vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot will give your business years of brand recognition and increased sales. Call Wrap Spot today. We'll see you tomorrow.